What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube. And today I've got some horror movie talk. Scream 6, as you can see here. Scream 6 is just 8 days away as I record and post this. I'll be going to the Scream premiere, the first-time premiere, next Thursday night. So officially 7 days away for me. 8 days for the general public. I am super excited. Scream obviously is one of the best franchises of all time. Personal favorite of mine, as you can tell by the shirt that I'm rocking today. And I've got some pitches. So I've decided to make a fun little interactive video about 5 potential pitches on who could be the killer and why they would be the killer for Scream 6. Obviously, that's the fun of the series. Everybody wants to watch to see who could be the killer, who's the big 1 or 2 killers, who's the big unveil. It's obviously the hallmark, trademark of this franchise. And next week, I'm bringing you guys another Scream video, so if you want to come back and check that out, I'll be ranking the movies, including the newest one, and I'll be talking about ranking the killers from worst to best as well. So some kill talk, some killer talk, some movie talk. But today I want to bring you guys 5 unique pitches on who could be the killer and why. Now, this is just 5 random takes from me, 5 things that I've thought of that connect the franchise in the past. I'm sure you've got your own ideas, and I want to hear those in the comments below, so please post your ideas on who you think it'll be and who it could be. Now, these aren't guesses from me by any stretch of the imagination. They're just 5 random thoughts of who could be the killer and what some of the motivations could be psychologically for those choices. I'm going to go in ascending order from 5 to 1. So this is my number 5 potential choice of a cool reveal, and that's Randy's sister. We've seen Randy's sister now. She was in part 3 when she helped deliver the videotape from Randy after he died in part 2. And obviously there will be spoilers from the other movies in this. So if you've not seen Scream 1 through 5, what the heck are you doing here? Go check those out and come back and watch this video. But, so spoilers abound for the rest of the franchise, but no spoilers in Scream 6, making it clear these are just guesses and ideas from my head. This has nothing to do with anything that I've seen or know. And again, also, if you've seen anything leaked, please do not spoil it in the comments. I do not want anything spoiled for anyone in the comments. I'll be quite upset if that happens. You will get blocked and reported. So please don't spoil anything for anyone. Just enjoy the movies. Just go try and stay out of the public eye. Try and avoid all the spoilers. There's nothing worse in a whodunit movie than getting a spoiler early. It ruins the experience for all of us, so just don't be that person. But number 5, Randy's sister. We saw her in Scream 3. We saw her come and give the Randy tape to Sidney and Dewey, I think it was. And we also saw her pop back up again in Scream 5. She is now, I believe, the aunt of the twins, the 2 twins in Scream 5. I think she was the aunt, maybe. Something like that, but she's got now direct relation to 2 of the newer characters that survived in Scream 5. So she has a reason to be there in Scream 6. And obviously she now has ties to the original franchise in Part 3 and in the new version in Part 5. And obviously her motivation could be, well, you guys let Randy die. You guys were there, you guys were survivors, and you couldn't protect Randy, and now all of a sudden I've got to raise his 2 children kind of on my own. So you could have some revenge reasoning there for somebody else in the franchise dying. We saw that again in Part 2. Part 2 is Billy's mother was the killer. Heather Matarazzo is a wonderful actress, and I love seeing her as part of the franchise. And so she's got obvious revenge motives here with links to new characters. Part 4 is kind of an extension of this. So Part 4, I initially wrote a 2-film pitch to Wes and Kevin after Scream 4. I sent Wes Craven on Twitter my 5 and 6 pitch when they were going to bring it back for 4, 5, and 6. Now, I doubt that Wes even read it, but the writer in me had no choice but to do it. Obviously, Scream 4 didn't make a ton of money as they expected it to in the initial set of drafts, so it never came back for Scream 5 until Wes passed away, and now we got the new one. But when they were going to do the initial new trilogy, I set this up, and I'm obviously battling this camera as I'm trying to figure it out on this new table, having a hard time. But yeah, so I pitched initially 2 killers, 1 for 5 and 1 for 6, and one of those, the killer at the end of 6, would be this person, Sidney's father. Sidney's father is another old legacy character that has ties to multiple iterations of this franchise. We saw Sidney's father, obviously, in the first one, as he went away on business, which kickstarted the whole events of the first movie, and was a big suspect until we saw him pop out at the end in the closet being captured by Billy and Stu and being a survivor. And then we didn't see him again, I think, until Scream 3. I think he briefly appeared in Sydney's cabin, I believe, when she was kind of living up secluded in the mountains. He was there bringing her food, I think. So we've seen him now multiple times, and he is just such an obvious character for me, even in spite of Sydney not being in this movie, and we'll get to that in a minute. But having Sydney's father as the killer makes so much sense, even without Sydney. The fact that his wife, Sydney's mother, was cheating on him and siring other children, so to speak. She had other kids, which led to the whole culmination. So in the first movie, the events of Sydney's mother having hooked up with Cotton and other people caused Billy's mother to walk out on their family because Sydney's mother was hooking up with Billy's father, which caused Billy then to go psycho and kill Sydney. Or try to kill Sydney, I'm sorry. So then that kicks off the entire series, all because of Sydney's mother cheating on her father and cheating with Billy's father. So then in Scream 3, we find out that Maureen Prescott, Sydney's mother, also had another child, Sydney's half-brother, Roman, who was the killer in Scream 3. So Sydney's mother and her various infidelities have been the backbone of the entire killer reveal of the series. So having Sydney's father finally snap after not only does he have the murders of his wife looming over the family and the tragedy and all that, but then finds out, that she's cheating all over town on him, which causes more trouble. And then, all of a sudden now Roman, Sydney's got a new half-brother. How many other kids of Maureen's are out there? How many other infidelities has she had? There's talk about Cotton Weary. There's many others. So Sydney's father being upset about his wife cheating and ruining not only his marital life, but causing his daughter to get stalked and, harassed for 30 years by these killers and having it always on the news, it could make somebody snap. I could understand why someone's home life being wrecked like that could make them snap over time. And so my initial pitch was have Sydney wind up being the killer. And, well, you know what? I'm not even going to get into that because that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. But I think Sydney's father being the killer makes a lot of sense. And if you want to talk about why Sydney is not in this movie, if you want a storyline, explain it. I'm sure they will address it at some point in this movie. But if you want to really explain it, you could have Sydney's father say that he kidnapped her as a measure of anger. So they could even wind up killing Sydney's father at the end of this movie and then going to try to find where he stashed Sydney. Because he could have snapped on her and kidnapped her and taken her away, and they can try and find her, which brings her back in 6 and keeps her in the public eye for the hardcore fans. So there's a possibility there. Number 3, Jill from Scream 4. We saw in the reboot how Wes and Kevin modernized it and had Sydney's cousin Jill be the killer for clicks and streams and kind of getting popular in the social media age. And that was a really good modern take and a really well-acted character by Emma Roberts, who said she wouldn't mind coming back to this Scream. We keep hearing over and over again, everybody wants Stu, right? Everyone talks about Stu not being dead. We see Stu actually have a TV dropped on his head, so we know for a fact that Stu's dead. And Kevin Williamson has come out already and said, yeah, Stu's dead. We killed him. He's gone. So don't look at him as a potential killer. But Jill, for example, we see her die, but we see the camera kind of linger on her as somebody that, they end the Scream 4 movie with Jill, with the newscasters being like, what a hero. She survived. People think that she was on the good side because she was rushed to the hospital in the initial attacks. And so they think that she's still a protagonist at the time that she dies, and we don't necessarily know for a fact that she's dead. And Kevin Williamson, again, the original writer, has come out and said the plan was to bring her back in 5 as somebody who is evil, who the world thinks of as good, because in their minds, she's one of the survivors. So Kevin has said the initial plan was to bring her back and have her survive. She wants to come back, and there's ties to her movie in this movie as Kirby, Hayden Panettiere, one of the beloved survivors in Part 4, has returned, another character we didn't see die on screen. So there's precedence to bring Jill back, and Kirby is there. Now, you can do something like they did in Saw 4. If you guys have seen Saw 4, they have this thing where Hoffman is obviously the killer. We have the reveal at the end of either 3 or 4. So it's either 4 or 5 when we find out we know for sure Hoffman is the killer. But the police department thinks that he's a good guy. The world thinks he's good, but 1 or 2 people are on his tail, realizing that he's one of the bad guys, putting the clues together. So you have Hoffman being beloved by half the world and hated by a few that are trying to chase him down because they know who he truly is. We can have this with Kirby chasing after Jill. Kirby can come back and go, hey, we didn't see her die. We know who she is. The world doesn't know, but I know. We're going to get her. And it can be either Jill, with the possibility of her returning, so you think she may or may not be the killer, while Kirby chases her. That can either lead to Jill being one of 2 killers, or it being a surprise where it's not Jill, or we can see Jill in a different light brought back in a different way. So Kirby being there makes a lot of sense and ties up one of the best arcs in the entire series. When they made Jill the killer, that was a really good reveal, and I would like to see them finish it out, especially with Hayden Panettiere back this time. Number 2, Billy's wife and or baby mama, girlfriend, whatever she is, the mother of the sisters. Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera have this sisterly bond storyline in 5, where they talk about their mother. Melissa Barrera's character is haunted by being Billy's daughter and has the remnants of Billy, having those holographic, whatever, flashback pictures of Billy walking around, kind of being a protagonist, which is a little weird. But they reference having a mother who's not really around. And obviously, someone had to birth Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera's character. I'm not sure if the mother is both of their mothers or just Melissa Barrera's, but Billy had a daughter with somebody. We know that from 5. We've seen Billy on screen now. So, who's the mother? Is there a tie to the original film? I thought in my mind, is there somebody that Billy cheated on Sydney with back at that time? Billy obviously died at the end of the first movie. So at some point, he either had to have found a way to survive in order to have this child, or had the kid on the way before he died, and then 9 months later, some mother popped the child out, which means somebody from Scream 1, the original movie around that time, or Scream 2, had this child. Is it one of the girls in the bathroom that's making fun of Sydney in the first movie? Is it somebody else in the class? Did he cheat with, someone that was friends with Tatum? There's so many possibilities. And who Billy could have had Melissa Barrera's character with. And there's obvious abandonment issues there. She's got a very, good reason to be a killer. Billy was a killer, so he's already rubbed off on this person who he had a child with. She must have known. And if she didn't know, she found out that, oh, by the way, my baby daddy is dead and also was a killer. So she's got psychological issues there. And obviously, her daughters, Jenna Ortega, feeling very lonely and isolated, and Melissa Barrera having psychotic visions of her dead father. There's a lot of psychosis running around in this family, and being that we're getting flashbacks of Billy and things surround the 2 sisters, and they're the main characters now in this new franchise, Billy, whoever had these children has to be at the forefront of our minds, right? So I would think she's an obvious choice. Probably the most obvious choice to actually be the killer in this new movie. But number 1, I'm going to throw an off-the-wall one at you, and I'm sure someone else has said it somewhere. I've not heard it yet, so in my mind, it's my idea. Sidney Prescott herself. Wouldn't it be about the most, you really want to have surprises in this franchise, right? When you get the initial reveal of the killers, you want the audience to go, oh my God, what a surprise. I never expected this person. To make a good whodunit, having a good reveal and a good reasoning for the reveal is essentially the biggest reason you watch these movies. You build to the reveal and you speculate with your friends and you guess and you talk during the movie to try and figure out who it is. Wouldn't it be the biggest swerve of all time if the company put out, before this movie started, Neve Campbell's not coming back, we didn't pay her enough, we're sorry. Nev's not going to be part of this. Neve announces at a Comic-Con, I'm not going to be in this movie. I wish you guys luck. I'm sorry. I wanted the money I deserve. The company shortchanged me. Wouldn't that be a great swerve to start publicizing that before the movie starts, and then you don't see Neve Campbell in the credits advertised, and you don't see her the entire movie, and nobody even really mentions her. They might make one line about how Neve moved somewhere and she got away from all this, and you barely hear Neve mentioned. You don't see her name in the credits. And then they unmask Ghostface, and it's Neve Campbell. It's Sidney Prescott herself? Or what if the company didn't pay her at first? They did shortchange her and lowball her offer, and the fans went crazy and signed petitions and rioted and got mad because we're diehard fans of this franchise, and you should pay your star just like you'd pay Robert Englund or Kane Hodder or Tony Todd or anybody else that is the main character in one of these movies. Sidney Neve Campbell deserves the money. So what if they did lowball her at first and she announced she wasn't going to be in the project? And then they realized with all the contracts and petitions and backlash from the fans that the team behind this movie decided, okay, you know what? We messed up. We were listening to the audience. We're going to sign you back, but guess what? We're not going to tell the audience about it. We're going to surprise them. This would be the only real genuine surprise you could have as the killer reveal. Now, does it make sense? Is there a story for it? I think so. In my initial pitch to Wes Craven, again, back in years ago, after 4, I said, what if we did make Neve Campbell the killer in 5 and then have the redemptive arc in 6? What if she's the killer because she's tired of all these people snapping on her and turning on her and the news glorifying this and being up in her face? Wouldn't that make you a little crazy over time? Wouldn't your boyfriend turning on you and trying to kill you, and then, Mickey and Billy's mom coming back in 2, and then her half-brother coming to find her to try to kill her in 3, and then her cousin, Jill, who she comes back home to, tries to kill her in 4, and then she all of a sudden has fans trying to kill her in 5, these people that are fans of the series. What if all the things with her mom's death, and Cotton, and her father being tormented all this time, and her being tried to have been killed now 5 different times by loved ones and fans and all these people, and the media like Gail and then initial media being up in her face all the time, wouldn't that make you snap? Wouldn't that make you say, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them? I'm tired of being targeted all this time. I'm going to go on a rampage now and take all the survivors out so I no longer have to deal with this constant barrage of media up in my face and not being able to trust anyone and not being able to move away and live in solitude. I'm tired of this. And she could even turn that storyline into a meta speech about how, in some way, Neve Campbell, Sidney Prescott, was the face of the franchise. She was the leader behind the Stab movies or whatever. You can make it metaverse. And you could talk about how she was underpaid in some way. You're not going to bring the actual thing up, but you can find a meta way, like Scream always does, at poking at the truth. And, that could be part of her monologue. She could talk about how everyone's turned on her and she can't live in peace or in seclusion without being pulled back in. And she can loop it around to say, well, I was the face of the franchise and I was never treated like it. I was the star here and people just used and abused me until I was no longer important and I was just a legacy character and now I'm considered washed up. She can make the real life storyline in some way relate back to her character and be part of that speech as she turns on people for turning on her after all this time. She joins the Ghostface ranks to finally get some peace as her mental break reaches a new level. So that could be a possibility, right? There's an actual storyline there somewhere. I don't recommend making your lead who already has sympathy be the killer. But again, what if we go into this expecting not to see any Sidney and she's not in the credits and we've heard she's not going to be in this and we're missing Sidney as a fan base and then all of a sudden that mask comes off and it's her? That's one of the biggest reveals in horror history, in the history of any movie. So that's something to think about. But I think Billy's wife, the mother of the 2 main sisters, is a real possibility as well. Those are my 5 pitches. I apologize for all the starting and stopping and all the camera jostling. I'm still getting my stuff together. But again, if you want to see my previous Scream ranking video, I've done that on this channel. Just type in Styles Clash for Life. I've done a previous Scream ranking where I discuss all 4 of the movies. Next week, I'll be bringing you guys, in the week of Scream, bringing you guys a best kills, best killers, best movie rankings with the new movie in it. In there next week as well, and then I'll be watching the movie next Thursday, and hopefully next Thursday night bringing you guys the full review right live just after the movie occurs. So come check those things out if you're a Scream fan. I will see you guys soon. Please spoiler free, keep it spoiler free and keep it clean, but tell me in the comments below who you think the killers could be and why. Guess who you think the killer or killers are, guess who else they could be, and give me your thoughts on my 5 pitches as to what you think. Tell me in the comments below, and again, keep it spoiler free, and I will see you guys next week with a bunch more Scream coverage. Stay scared.